Go ahead and get started here. I am Dylan Smith. Welcome on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce of Kingfisher. Wanted to let you guys know about some events that we have coming up. The August 8th, Saturday, we are doing a car show at the parking lot behind Interbank. If you have a vehicle or you know of anyone that has a pretty cool vehicle, we would love to have you come out and hang out with us. We're going to have a live band and a kids zone. October 5th, we have the Clay Shoot fundraiser. That will be Monday, October 5th. That supports the annual Christmas parade and fireworks and drone show, which will be Saturday, December 5th this year. We also have the Men in Business, Women in Business, and the State of the Schools coming up. I'm going to introduce the city manager, Jim Thomas, and Kingfisher Mayor Jeff Cobalt. They've done a lot of work to put this on for the city every year. So I appreciate you guys being here. Please welcome city manager Jim Thomas.
Thank you all for being here. We appreciate it. This is the second annual that I've been a part of, and hopefully you gain some value in some of the challenges that we're facing and some of the opportunities that we have. So I do want to recognize at least a few people that are here with us today. Executive Director of the Oklahoma Broadband Office, Mr. Mike Sanders, thank you for being here. Former Secretary to his right, former Secretary of Education, Nellie Sanders, is here with us as well. State Representative and Chairman of the Utilities Committee, Mike Dobrinsky, is here. Field representatives for Senator James Langford, Peyton Burns is with us. And then with Congressman Frank Lucas's office, Wes Jaworski, is also with us. Also, the school board president, Mr. Bill Wright, is here. Thank you for being here, Bill. Let's see, anybody else that we're not going to mention? Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about that. We also have the Kingfisher Building Inspector, Brian Henry, is here. Brian, okay, very good. I wanted to first, I skipped over a little bit. Blake Callahan here with the Pioneer, he's general manager, and the Cimarron Electric, Mark Andrews and Jeff Hyatt are also with us. I think I caught everybody. I may have missed somebody, I apologize if I did. I wanted to start out really by just thanking all of you for being here. There's a lot of things going on with the city. There's a lot of activity, and there has been. There was a lady that had come up to Jim earlier before the meeting started and just expressed how beautiful Kingfisher was and what a family atmosphere Kingfisher is. And I know that's been built over decades and decades, and I know that we are trying to carry that forward and trying to invest in our community where you don't think about flushing your toilet or turning your lights on or anything like that. We have challenges, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we move forward. But I do want to thank Blake and Pioneer for extending the opportunity for us to use this facility. Big deal. Don't charge us a dime, so we appreciate that for sure. I want to thank the Kingfisher Chamber of Commerce and all the work that they put in day to day, and really even putting on this event in unison with the city. I want to thank the Kingfisher Times and Free Press, All About Kingfisher, all the civic organizations that you are all a part of, and the volunteer opportunities that you partake in. It makes what we are Kingfisher, and everybody recognizes that. So thank you for that. One of the things I also wanted to discuss was the fact that we're going to talk about projects, we're going to talk about budgets a little bit, we're going to talk about some statistics, but it's not all about that. I mean, each city, doesn't matter where you go in the country, has challenges. We're no different. But in among those challenges, we also have opportunities. And so we want to look at those, and we want to entertain what we can to make Kingfisher more what was set out by our forefathers, and to build upon the foundation that they have set for us. And we have a strong foundation, and we'll talk through some of that. So with that, is this baby on? I think it is. I think good. First, I did want to recognize we at least have two city commissioners here, Mr. Daniel Rule and Jamie Hill. Commissioner Whitrock and Commissioner Mecklenburg were not able to make that. In with us as well, appointed officials. Jim Thomas is the current city manager. City clerk Brittany Laddick, Anita James, city treasurer Jared Harrison, and municipal judge Kurt Ballenbach. And so I know a number of those are here, and we just want to thank them for their service. Also wanted to point out some of the folks that are with us within the city and the city staff and our department leads. Assistant City Manager Jonah Humes is with us, as well as Chief Gibson in the fire department, Chief Gray with the police, Infomark. I don't know if Kevin is here or not, but they're assisting the city with water and wastewater, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Parks, Gary Kokenauer, I mean, that's a never-ending job, especially right now, so we appreciate him and his staff. And then Mark Gamble with the electric department, Bobby Lumpkin with the streets, Mike with libraries, and then Savannah Story at the aquatic center. So we're going to get this thing kicked off, and I'm going to turn it over here to Jim real quick.
It's good to be with you again this year. As Mayor Cobalt said, this is our second year. This will be my last State of the City here in Kingfisher, and so I'm a little emotional about it. I told them beforehand, this is like kickoff on a football game. I've got butterflies. But you have truly made Kingfisher welcoming for Kathy and I these last 3 years, and I have appreciated the department heads working with me over these past 3 years, and Shauna Rupp, the executive director of the chamber. We have a great relationship. In fact, I'm probably the only city manager that has a key to the chamber office because I use her boardroom all the time, but it's been good. We're going to talk a little bit about our finances. Our main focus can you click that one more time, Jeff? Is sales tax and fees. Oklahoma is the only state in the nation out of 50 that does not allow local governments to raise property taxes to support the general operation. We are also, when you compare all municipal governments across 50 states and funding, how local governments are funded, we're ranked 46 out of 50. What we do with local governments in Oklahoma truly is amazing. I spent 8 years in Claremore on the other side of the state, and I've spent the last 3 years here, and we squeeze as much out of a dollar as any community that I've had the privilege of working in. We just don't have that blessing. The mayor and I have discussed this last night. If we were to go to a general obligation bond, a vote of the people, we could assess on your property taxes, but just to have a routine availability of property taxes is just prohibited. It goes into our Constitution. It goes back all the way to statehood. This is how we're broken down. We collect 3.5 cents in sales tax. 1 penny is designated for the hospital, and then 0.5 cent is designated for major capital. Right now we're using that money for the fire station. I'm appreciative, and I know Chief Gibson is. About a year and a half ago, in January of 2025, you supported us extending that 0.5 cent for an additional 10 years. It'll go to the year 2041. The cost of the construction, we'll show you a full breakdown of the fire station, what it's going to cost when it's fully built out and we've paid our loans off. So we appreciate that. That 1 cent for the hospital, their loan is going to be paid up probably around 2031, 2032. And I've encouraged Mayor Cobalt and the commissioners, when that 1 penny comes up for due, I think you as citizens need to extend that to allow us to take care of capital needs and basic operations and put that money back in the coffers. 1 penny will generate about $1.2 million to $1.3 million every year. So if you think about that, when we go through some of our capital, that will really stretch that dollar a long ways. Our 2 pennies collect about 2.8 million, 2.7 million. We're going to show you a slide that will show you that we've been flat the last 2 years. There it is right there. This year, we're just a hair below 2.7 million. And then last year, and that's as of June 30th, 2026, is when we closed our fiscal year. You can see some years, like in 2019, we're as high as 3.4. A lot of that is oil, cyclical. That was also the COVID time. The federal government was giving money to everybody and they were spending it, which we appreciate, but we've really struggled. The other sales tax revenue is a use tax. And for you ladies that enjoy Amazon like my wife does, you're still paying taxes and we get it remitted back to us. But we'll generate about $839,000 last year. It's been as high as 1.3 in 2023. So we're at least recouping some of those sales tax that you purchase online and other accessories. Do you want to talk about the budget?
Yeah, I can visit a little bit about this. And one of the concerns I had in regards to this slide, it looks a lot different than what the last slide did, the last 2 slides did as far as sales tax goes. But what this includes, not only does it include our general operating fund and sales tax, use tax, but it also includes our public works, and that is our power, our water and sewer, and that generates somewhere in the neighborhood of around $10 million. And then there's some other things that generate in addition to that. But of that $10 million that we generate from a public works perspective, a lot of that funds opportunities with the pool and with other things where we move money around, and really there's very little discretionary funding outside of that 10 million that we don't have expenses for. So wanted to visit just a little bit about that. So, nevertheless, our opportunities for funding some of these needs that we're going to talk about, we're having to look at creative ways to do that and how we can finance some of that. And I'm going to jump ahead a little bit here because I do want to give kudos to Jim. And there's others around the community I know that supported this, and I know Mike Sanders helped quite a little bit as well, but we got a $2.5 million obligation from the federal government to help us with our fire department. That's going to go a long way, obviously. Part of the reason that happened, Congressman Lucas came out and visited Kingfisher, toured the facility. Chief Gibson was kind enough to tour him through that, and he really understood the need. The fire station we have currently is built for 2 people. It was built in 1974. Is that about right, Chief? So the need was there, but given what we needed initially with the initial half-penny sales tax, it was not going to fund what was needed. So that, again, I'll reiterate what Jim said, and we thank you for extending that because it was absolutely necessary.
Touch on the P3 as well.
Oh, the P3, I'm not, I know that there are 7 participants on that, and we'll talk a little bit about what Brent Kissling has added to our economic development, some of the things that he's working on. But he brought the P3 idea to us. The state's been doing this. I know Pioneer has been involved in this in other communities, and I know Cimarron is involved. But that's going to generate, it doesn't cost anybody any extra money. It basically takes payroll taxes, state payroll taxes, and brings it back to the community that those were generated, is the way I understand it. So that's going to generate about $1 million that will also assist us in our capital needs, but specifically for the fire station as well. So I know that, I'm not sure who all is involved in that, but there's, I think, 7, and that generated about $250,000.
We got our first, we got approved in March. This concept came up in January. Shauna helped me assemble, bring some business leaders together, because I said, this is too good to be true. That individuals living in the community, working for major corporations, can pay their state income tax, and it can come back to the community they're living in. And after a number of businesses, we invited about 12 of them to the chamber. 7 of them stepped up to the plate and said, hey, we're coming on board. So we got approved in March of this year, and our first quarterly check was in June 30th, for $171,000. And it's the fastest I've ever seen turnaround money from the federal government or the state government. So we anticipate probably 4 or 5 quarters, we'll get our full $1 million. And that will go to stretch that half a cent that the mayor and I have been talking about.
Just wanted to bring this to your attention too. I mean, we have incurred some debt. We incurred a OWRB loan in 2020 that was specific to doing some work out at the wastewater treatment plant. We also incurred some debt for the fire station. The fire station, we're going to talk a little bit about that, but the cost of money and the length of time it's going to take to build that, we're not going to generate enough money in that half-penny sales tax to fund that. So we're borrowing money that will be repaid based on that half-penny sales tax. And then we also incurred just recently, in the last 6 months or so, we got an OWRB loan to also help fund some of our capital projects. So again, a lot of the things that we talk about in our budget, we don't generate enough money to take care of some of the needs that we're going to discuss today, but today is cheaper than it's going to be 5 years from now. So we're looking at ways to do that. So anyway, those are the 3 loans that we have outstanding currently. So did I cover everything there? And so in regards to that, I didn't talk about this, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later. But one of the biggest needs that we have, and we actually have a representative from Parkville, Travis Archer, and he's one of our engineers that's really focusing on our water and wastewater treatment processes. And man, he's been a blessing to us, and so is Parkville. But one of our largest needs is our headworks at the sanitary sewer plant. And it's not anything really that people want to hear about, but it protects everything downstream of that and of the investment that we made in our wastewater treatment plant. And we're going to continue to need to upgrade some of that stuff. But first and foremost is to protect everything that we invest later and that we have invested in right now. It's amazing what comes down the sanitary sewer lines. I mean, there's been bowling balls. I don't know how you get that down, but it's pretty interesting. I mean, you think you live in secret, but I'm telling you, our Infomark and our wastewater and water treatment folks see what you do every day. No, I'm just kidding. Pretty nasty, actually. But it's absolutely needed, and Travis and his team are working on that Headworks project right now. We expect that we will go to bid sometime this fall. He's about, I don't know, 60 to 65% complete, is my understanding, in regards to those plans. So that's a big deal. We are in the process of upgrading our electronic meter readers. What's that? AMIs, the automatic machine, whatever they are. We actually had some of those that were not performing well. We've switched that out, and we're in the process. We hope to have most of those installed by the end of July.
End of August.
End of August. Appreciate that. Here, I may just turn it over to him so I don't get corrected all the time. But anyway, I know that our meter reader that we have currently that goes around, he has announced at the end of August he's going to be finished, correct?
Correct.
It's not July or anything. Okay. The other thing that we're really interested in, that we need to do in regards to water, is a hydraulic analysis, and that's really just performing an analysis on what our water system is doing around town. And unfortunately, we don't see that, right? The only problems that we hear about is when we run out of water or something happens downtown. I think Commissioner Rule had reached out not too many weeks ago and said we had problems downtown somewhere on a weekend. Well, there are a lot of our infrastructure is 60, 70, 80 years old. And unfortunately, you don't know until you have a problem. And so we're gonna task an engineer to go out and do a hydraulic analysis and check some of that stuff to ensure that we're upgrading where we need to upgrade and rehabilitate where we need to rehabilitate. And so that analysis will provide some of that information. Also, we need to invest in a sanitary sewer inspection, which part of the problem with it, again, our infrastructure is old. It wasn't, I think it was in December. We had an issue with a line, and I think it was 4 years earlier that ONG had come through there and bored that line, and they bored right through it. We didn't know it for about 3 or 4 years, but when we were inspecting from manhole to manhole, because we were looking at some different things, we ran into some issues, and that was on Fay Avenue. Probably some of y'all were burdened with that, but we moved as quickly as we possibly could on that. So anyway, we need to do those inspections as well.
Those of you that have a business downtown know that prior to me getting here, we were awarded a federal grant for about $800,000 to make some repairs on our sidewalks, and that's ongoing right now. They're making them ADA compliant, and I think it's really going to boost the image of some of the businesses in the downtown area. And this was a partnership. I think it was an 80-20 split. We had to come up with 30%, but it's money well spent and wise. This is the fire station. This is a true love of mine. I've been laboring over this thing from the first day I got here. My first meeting, July 8, 2023, the city council voted in a split decision to start building a fire station. And I've been in this business long enough to know you don't want to split council, and so I spent a number of months working behind the scenes with the council. We changed architects, and I got a 5-0 vote from the commissioners to build the fire station. It's going to be about 20,000 square feet on the property you guys purchased several years ago. We've had a few hiccups. We had to make some changes in the leadership of the company that we were working with us, and got a new superintendent of construction on site, as well as the president taking over as project manager. You've seen a lot of progress in the last couple weeks. They're still 2 to 3 weeks behind schedule. There's been some weather delays, and then, like I said, we had to remove some footings because they were improperly put in, and there were some issues with some tie bar. And Chief Gibson and I both were firmly committed. We said, this station's got to last 50 years, just like the previous one did. And I said, you made a mistake, you got to correct it. And A&K stepped up to the plate and got it done. Yesterday they had a crane out there putting up steel. So you're going to see some momentum building with that fire station. There's the cost. The land that they purchased cost about $650,000. We borrowed $5 million from F&M Bank for 5 years at 4.5%, which is a pretty good interest rate. But when you consider then the bids that went out, we were only going to build a 4-bay station because I didn't think we had enough money, but the bids came in low enough that we added that 5th bay, which will allow all the equipment, anything the fire department owns, will fit in this fire station. Ambulances, fire trucks, and everything else. So it's about $8.5 million just for the construction of the facility itself. And you add the interest, architect fees. Architects are not cheap. We spent more than a year designing this, and then they're spending the next 12 to 15 months inspection. So that's about $750,000. So if you add all those numbers up, at the end of the day, it's about $13 million. And when I got here, I did the math. I said, this half a cent, if it's only good for 10 years, is not going to raise enough money. And that's why, as the mayor said, Congressman Lucas's office has been very kind with us. We're able to get a bill pushed through, direct appropriation for this for $2.5 million, and now Jonah Humes is working behind the scenes to get that money appropriated, and then the P3. So we'll get about $3.5 million to help defer the costs that will allow us to spend that half a cent on other capital improvement projects.
Yeah, let me say, and I think I did not call out former Mayor Roxy Alexander's here too, and I did not mention that, and I saw Commissioner Wendell Premy led us in prayer. We had some long discussions in regards to this fire station back when I served with them on the commission, and it was for that very reason, was that the generation of tax that we were seeing was not going to allow us to build what we needed, and it was a huge deal. I mean, I think over the course of that 10 years, we were looking at maybe somewhere between 6.5 and 7 million that we would generate, and as you see, I mean, it was going to cost us considerably more. So where could we find that additional funding? And obviously, a number of you again have worked on that to help Jim and some of the staff see this to fruition. And hopefully by early next spring, as Jim keeps saying it's December. I mean, he's always saying it's going to happen in December. I don't see it happening personally. I think it's going to be sometime early in the spring. But what I do know is that not only do we have a chief building inspector in Kingfisher, our fire chief is a daily inspector there. So I know that it's getting done right because he's on top of it as well. So I know that he's looking forward to that and all his folks. So
That's what it'll final. That's the final look. That's the 5-bay.
So one of the commitments that we have is obviously the safety in the city of Kingfisher, and we're investing heavily in regards to safety through not only fire but also some of the through police. And we have a great community and a safe community. We don't see a whole heck of a lot of activity, although we do have some. But these guys do a tremendous job, and gals do a tremendous job keeping the community safe. And so I will speak real quickly on this, and Jim can add to this. When we went through our capital improvement plan, and when we put that together, I think I mentioned last year, we employed 3 engineers, and for the simple fact that each one of them brought different expertises. I mentioned Park Hill and their expertise, and Travis was a former employee at ODEQ, and has been at Park Hill for quite some time now, but he helps lead that practice in the treatment side of things. They also have other capabilities, but we hired Team Design to really look at our drainage and streets, and so and then SRB, Smith Roberts Baldishweiler, was really looking at our distributions and our collection systems around town. I mentioned the hydraulic analysis of storm sewer earlier. Team, as well as SRB and Park Hill, put together a list of priority projects that we need to address now. They weren't once. We talked about that a little bit last year. We talked about the fact that we've got $32 million worth of needs over the next 10 years. Obviously, we're not generating anywhere close to that, so we're having to prioritize to ensure that we take care of the things that are most pressing. I mentioned the headworks, but when we collected all this together, Team put together our streets and drainage, and we're still working on some of the drainage stuff. But the streets, we looked at not only in what shape were they in, but what was most heavily traveled, and what gets more use from one street to the next. So you have arterial roads and you have collector roads, and so the most heavily traveled road outside of 81 in our community, or 33, is Will Rogers. It's from the high school to 81, and so we had some issues with that. So Team put this together to not only do a little bit of deep patching, but correct some drainage along the curb and gutter lines, which you saw they initially started, and then went in crack filled and milled and filled this. And so that was a $450,000 investment, but I think it was something that I think we will see the use of that benefit us, not only to our high school and the schools, but also for those that are traveling around Kingfisher.
Let me just say one thing. And many of you travel up Will Rogers and goes through that intersection, and I'm sure there's a handful of you, because I've heard from elected officials about the stoplights there at the corner. That line is broken. The Assistant City Manager, Jonah Humes, is working with some traffic companies to see what we can do, because right now it's just on a timer. And I think it's every 30 seconds, whether you're going north and south or east and west, it just rotates the light that way. And so we're gonna spend some money trying to get that intersection fixed now that we've got the road done. So just be patient with us. Don't put on Facebook, you know, I'm standing at the street light for 3 minutes. We're working on it. We've heard you, I've heard from commissioners, and we're gonna get her done.
Yeah, just to say a little something about that, in order to put, I think Jonah had told me, and just visiting with some others, it would have cost us about $60,000 to put a camera system in there. He's working on that to see exactly what we can do. That's a pretty significant overrun, and because of fair bidding requirements and things like that, that's probably over what we can do without going to bid. So we're looking at alternatives there. I know if nothing I've heard throughout my service on the commission is that, man, if you're going east and trying to turn north, it takes forever, you know, and that was because of that inductive loop that he referred to that was no longer operational. So again, our top priority in regards to all of the capital improvement plan in general was the Headworks program. And again, we're getting close to bidding that out. I don't know what the time frame, will it take a year or so to probably construct that, Travis?
Yeah, I think that'd be about right.
Yeah. So it's a pretty heavy investment, but again, it will pay dividends for years to come. Also, we talked about how safety is obviously a priority. Chief Gibson and his folks, I mean, they've been operating, really, this investment that was made was long overdue, but unfortunately it's very, very expensive. And we have so many needs around the community, but because of the opportunity, if we would have waited 3 or 4 months, is my understanding, this same truck would cost $1.2 million, and it was probably 3 years out before we would receive it. So about $400,000 the city committed to build to this, and then the county gave the other half of that in regards to their set aside for rural fire departments. I believe that's right. Anyway, it's replacing a 40-year-old engine, so it's been, you know, there are all kinds of needs, and it was something that we desired to get moving on that. So, and Chief Gibson and even Chief Stewart prior to him were very persistent in trying to persuade and push us towards that decision. So, you got anything else in regards to that? Yeah.
I worked with Infomark when I was in Claremore, and we've had some challenges since I've been here with our water and sewer system, and so we made a change at the leadership position. And I reached out to the city manager in Claremore. I says, can I borrow your lead plant operator for a couple of days, for a few months, just to give me an assessment of how bad it is and what are we going to need to get things back in a positive direction. And they sent out Steve Sears. I thought Steve would be here today. I sent him an invitation. And he spent 2 days a week for about 6 months. And about halfway through this, I went to the council and I said, listen, you've seen the difference between what we had before and what Infomark can do for us. I want to go out to bid and do a request for proposals to see what's out there on the market. And just competitively bid. And so that's what we did. The mayor and I went over the proposals. We had about 6 of them, narrowed it down to a company that I felt comfortable with. I recommended it back to the full board. They agreed, and then we negotiated a price. I can tell you in the short time Infomark has been here, we have lowered, you'll be getting a letter from us. We've got some issues with THMs, but you've had issues with THMs for 50 years. They've lowered the percent of our violation 25% in the short time they've been here. They brought on some different skilled people that we needed to help us run our sewer plant and our water plant. Things are getting done more efficiently, more effectively. A couple of years ago, the city council invested in a GIS system. We still have some weaknesses in that, but here again, Infomark has taken it to the next level. They're updating it monthly with our GIS system. And so we've done a lot with Infomark. They got a 5-year contract, because that was the other thing I told the council. I said, I know you've never subcontracted out the operations. It didn't get sold. We didn't sell it to Infomark. I know there's rumors out there that we sold our water and sewer. They are just our plant operators. So if you have a problem, low water pressure or backed up sewer, they're the ones that are going to respond. And we have a firm fixed price for them for yearly costs. They're going to take care of the maintenance. This costs are built into that. They're a nationally recognized company. They have about 7,000 employees. They have a big, they do part of Oklahoma City's water and sewer treatment facility. So they bring us the skills that we don't have as a small community. Because I can tell you, trying to recruit in Kingfisher, Oklahoma is tough. Sometimes you don't get the best candidates you'd like to come work here because we're 45 minutes out of Oklahoma City and the cost of living. Why? I wish I could tell you, ma'am.
You can't pay them enough, that's why.
Yeah.
I
Anyway.
I did it for 35 years.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mayor.
Yeah, I was gonna say also, one of the things that I wanted to bring up in regard, if you do have issues, please call City Hall. We'd prefer not to get those on Facebook. I mean, we don't solve a lot of things on Facebook or social media, so if you can make a call, we will know a lot sooner than when Brittany enlightens us onto what's going on Facebook. Truly, if you just make a call, they'll be on that. So not only are they our plant operators and they've reduced our THMs, I don't want to discredit, because Travis has been right in the middle of that too, coordinating with them, and Travis, his experience has assisted there as well. So I'm going to move on in an effort to move.
It would be real helpful if you could put on there, on something on your phone thing, after hours call this number.
Yeah.
So you don't have that, and if somebody that calls up after you're closed,
For sure.
you don't have anywhere to call after hours. There's no notification or anything.
We'll make sure it gets put on the utility bill in
Yeah,
big bold
but that doesn't
letters.
help me when I'm calling, I've got my waters off on Friday afternoon. I
Yeah.
don't think to go look for my utility bill. Where the hell do I call? I'm looking in the phone book or something.
We'll talk about that. I think we're going to make some availability on the internet and our website there, some things like that have after hour calls and
A
stuff.
message
So,
on your answering machine would be real simple.
for sure. Moving on to the pool updates, and we've invested pretty heavily in regards to pool updates. We're also in the process, and what we budgeted for this year is to replace these 2 boilers. It's going to cost about $100,000. We're going to move those outside. I mean, really, it's a safety issue, but also just, I think those boilers have been in place since it was really approved in 1999, maybe, or 98. So they're old, they need replaced, so we are doing that. So, fire hydrant replacement, you've seen some of that. Those are pretty expensive in regards to what we're doing there. We're replacing 19 of those. If you'll see the picture there on your right, that is an 1888 fire hydrant. Unbelievable. The contractor, I know, tried to sway Jonah into taking that back just for his office, and Jonah said there's no chance in the world. And we're taking that and we're going to put that at City Hall in 1888. So that's amazing. We found an 1888 fire hydrant about 2 years ago, we found a fire hydrant in the middle of a tree. That the tree had been growing around that for years. It was on 81. It had never come up before. So we're trying to make some modifications there to ensure. Yeah.
And I know I've seen some comments, people are concerned, you know, they're replacing fire hydrants. The fire department tests these fire hydrants on a regular basis, and they submit a list. We have about 325. And so the last list I saw, there was about 10% or 32 of them that needed some attention. And I could show you a picture, I mean, this is 1888, but I could show you a picture of a fire hydrant where the head is barely above ground. And, or like the mayor said, I found one where a tree had grown outside it. So we're continually trying to upgrade our system. This is not cheap. This was a $250,000 commitment. We got part of a grant, and then the city kicked money in. And as I said at the beginning, we stretch dollars as far as we can. But I don't want anybody to think that their house was in jeopardy. We have water, we've got the equipment, and we're making headway with our fire hydrants.
I'm not going to talk a little bit about this, but we're in the middle also with the Kingfisher Airport Trust of extending the runway. I think that provides a lot of opportunities for that, if we can get that deal done. I think we're pretty close to that. I think we're still negotiating a little bit of a few outliers in regards to maybe airspace and some different things, but I know they're pretty close and they're ready to go with that. Ambulance, I don't think we've received this yet, but it's coming pretty quick. Again, just from a safety standpoint, we have, 4 ambulances currently. Really, 2 of them operate all the time. A third one's always called in and to jump in. And there's been times that all 4 have been operational, but they're old and need replaced and they're expensive. So I told somebody earlier, I thought it was around 400,000, it's 350,000. Those have gone up significantly. The technology involved in the fire engine and the ambulances have absolutely assisted in raising the cost of those too. So, economic development, you want to talk about that?
As I said, last November in 2025, we brought a gentleman on, Brent Kinsling, used to be Secretary of Commerce for the state of Oklahoma. I worked with Governor Stitt for about 4 years. He used to be the Economic Development Director for the city of Enid, just north of us. He still lives there. Mike Sanders got us together. I spent a couple hours with him in September of last year and really felt there was some synergy. I was able to convince the Kingfisher Economic Development Board to kick in $10,000, and then we got a private family, the Francis family here in Kingfisher, to kick in another 10, and then the city kicked in 20. So we're really on a trial basis with Brent, but I can tell you, he brought P3, which is $1 million in the first 6 months that he's been here. He has been working on trying to get us a grocery store. These are just, I get a monthly report from him, contacts he's made with either a restaurant, a business looking at expanding. There's another business he talked to me about just the other day that is looking for a location on 81. I gave him some ideas, and so he is definitely pursuing that. As it relates to the United building, and this is public knowledge, their lease goes all the way through August of 2028. They're really not interested in somebody getting in there right away. And their lease payment is very, in my opinion, for a 20,000 square foot building, it's minimal. It's very low. And we finally got some keys to get in there to look at it. There are 2 grocery store chains, not national brands, they're regional grocery stores that really like the site, but they want to get in, look at the building, see what we can do to get United to break that lease and work with the owners. We have one grocery store that's offered to buy the building, and they're privately talking to the owners of that operation. So there's not a day that doesn't go by that Brent knows how important this is to Kingfisher because it generates sales tax. And I'm hoping, he's told me before I leave in December that we're gonna have some kind of an announcement, but it has been a real challenge. And I'm grateful that we've got a professional like him that has a network, he has access. You know, the P3 went so much smoother than I thought. And I think it's because of his relationship with the Department of Commerce. And we're gonna see some real benefits. And that's the other thing I want to say to the public. Thank you for, you supported us when we asked you about raising the hotel motel retail sales tax from 5% to 9%. And basically, the extra money that will be generated will pay for Brent's commission or salary. He's not on commission, but it'll pay for his costs. So it is built into the new budget. We're in now, fiscal year 2027, and I think we're going to see great dividends long after I'm gone with Brent.
So are you saying that somebody will be in December
Ma'am,
for United? I'm talking about United. I am handicapped and I can't get to Walmart. I need to be able to go in town.
We're not guaranteeing that, no. I think that those talks are continuing on, and he's
Who
working.
win? I mean, you guys have had a long time. Oh,
Well, they continue, we've reached out to every grocery chain Brent has to try to
Such as,
increase.
which grocery chain?
Well, first and foremost, the Homeland brand, owned the United, and I know he has talked with them about some of the reasons why they decided we're not unique in that. But, I mean, I know that he's talked to Williams, I can't name all of them, but it's not one or two. He's talked to multiple folks to see what the interest was in coming to Kingfisher. And obviously, there's a lot of things that they have to consider in regards to that. It's a private business decision. It's not something that most cities are not starting grocery stores. We obviously would like competition, and we want to provide for the citizens, but I promise you, we're not waiting around. We've invested in him to start dealing with those. If you look at the contacts that's been made, I mean, he's made a number of contacts, and I understand, I sympathize with where you're at. We're trying, and we're going to continue to do that until we.
I'll just say one thing. The fortunate thing we have is you have a building that's got 4 corners. He's telling me that major retailers are backing away from new brick and mortar stores. And so there is an opportunity if we can get everybody around the table. We can get Homeland to release the lease, and the new owner or the people that own the building work with the new tenants. We've reached out to Aldi's, Kroger, we reached out to Kroger. We've got a unique situation here where we've only got a population of 5,000, but we draw on a big region, and that's been communicated to these grocery stores, and so hopefully, something positive is going to come.
Crest is another one they reached out to.
Yeah.
Jumbo Foods, I think, and Eden. I mean, there's been a number of them. So we're working towards that.
Well, I know that several cities now, or small communities, have lost their grocery stores, and we need them. Now Walmart needs the competition.
I know it's getting close here. It's after 1, so we're not going to spend a lot of time, but I know, in addition to what we just talked about, he's working on other things. And I say he, Brent, along with the Kingfisher Economic Board, as well as the city and others, to provide some kind of seed money, if you will, facade grant program. And if you want more information in regards to these programs, we can get that to you as to what's been provided thus far. So, I'm going to quickly go through this, and if Jim has something to add, will call me. I did want to, if there were questions, we'd love to entertain those quickly too. But this is really what our capital improvement plan looks like over the next 10 years. We also are going to talk a little bit about what power needs we have and some of the facilities that we currently have and what kind of state they're in, but that's in addition to this. Again, we talked about our priorities. These are our priorities. If you want some more information on that, we'd be more than happy to give that to you, but we're not going to go through that just in an effort of time. We are pursuing the drilling fund grant. We received that a few years ago for Will Rogers and Starlight. We're also pursuing that in this upcoming drilling fund. That's state money that's administered by ODOT, but that will be out on Victory Lane and 13th Street and north of 33 towards Sweeter Brothers. They have to comply with some requirements in regards to the drilling fund. Future needs, water, we've talked a little bit about that. We can talk a lot more. We're going to do some studies, and we're going to continue to try to replace some of the system that's aging. We did invest in a SCADA system which allows our folks, rather than having to run to the field to understand what's going on with any of our wells or anything like that, they can now pull that up on their iPad or their phones, just to see kind of what the state of those pumps are. If they're down, they can do a number of different things in regards to that. We spent about $100 grand on that in order to allow us to be quite a bit more efficient. We still have some investment potentially that we would do across our system in regards to SCADA too. Yeah, we talked a lot about that. Power generation, we have a really aging generation facility. I think our newest generator is in 1973. We are in discussions with an engineer in regards to that. It looks like in order to replace what we have, it's going to cost somewhere between 18 to 20 million. Obviously, they have new, more efficient generators, but those are in high demand, specifically with data centers and other things. But we are looking at, we have a study going on right now to determine what's the best route for the city of Kingfisher. And if you have opinions on that, obviously we'd love to hear that. Yeah, go ahead.
You read about this in the paper on Sunday. Mike Sanders was able to get Kingfisher its first pod. And the ribbon cutting is tomorrow at 2. Mike's inviting all of you to come to the library tomorrow. If you haven't been to the library, it's a great place. You can relax and read a book whether you're 85 or 17. And this is just another venue that's being put in. We're the first in the state. I think his goal is to put about 170 of them, but there'll be 2 of them. One of them is ADA compliant for those that may have some issues getting around. But it'll be available for virtual primary care appointments, telehealth consultations, remote job interviews, literacy. If you need a place privately to study, you don't want to be disturbed by everybody there. But it's a great pod. There's 2 of them, and it's a great addition to our library.
It is.
I know some of y'all have time commitments, but we'd be willing, if there's some questions in regards to any of this stuff or anything that's on your mind, for sure. If we don't know the answer, we'll try to get it for you.
I have, on, Jim's going out in next year.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a really good idea that y'all had to bring in an assistant manager to work with him.
Yeah.
And then that changed, and now it's back on the table again.
Yeah.
Now, if you hire somebody else instead of Jonah, does his job go away, or you gonna keep the assistant manager?
So, a couple of things. I was going to talk a little bit about that, but just because of time constraints, I didn't. So I appreciate the question for sure. So the duty of the commission is to hire the city manager and to approve a budget, right? I mean, there's a lot more to it, but let's just break it down simply. When Jim advertised, the commission agreed that, hey, let's get an assistant city manager in here specifically to do what you said, to learn under him, to see what the city needs were, what opportunities, what challenges we had. The city manager, through our budget, hired an assistant city manager. And so the commission talked at length in regards to this and basically decided that we're going to open it up for any of those that would qualify through an organization that we have used in the past to try to find the best candidate we possibly can. I will tell you that we are interviewing this week for that, and Jonah is going to interview. There's some other candidates. We'll see how all this shakes out. But there's no question. I believe the commission, as well as the staff, have a lot of confidence in Jonah, for sure. So, but that's why we did that, was you never know what fits best. And so we reviewed all of that over the course of the last few weeks and decided on 3 candidates that made sense for Kingfisher, in our opinions, and so we're going to interview them on Friday. I'd made the comment that we're going to move this along quick, in all fairness, and we have. I think there will be a decision made pretty quickly in regards to what we do moving forward.
So if he don't get the job, what happens to his?
So, yeah, in regards to that position, one of the things that we have discussed is the benefit that we have seen by an assistant city manager. We have talked about a public works director, we've talked about a finance director and all this stuff. I mean, we do a lot and our staff does a lot on a little, and they're stretched pretty thin. One of the benefits that Jonah has brought in that position is the fact that he has 8 years of public works in other cities. And he has brought maybe a lot of experience that we didn't currently have in administration in regards to the investments that we're talking about. We have budgeted that for the full year, that position. And obviously, we operate on an annual budget. To a lot of us, and I don't speak for every one of them, but to a lot of us, it makes sense to maintain that position to assist us in moving forward. Any other questions? We'll be around for a little bit. So if you have something you don't want to say in front of somebody else, come up and talk to us. But I would just remind you to please reach out to us if there are concerns in regards to any of this. Jim's office is always open, and I'm around a lot, so by all means, hit us up. We want to be doing what you guys want us to do, understanding what the needs and commitments we currently have are. So we appreciate you being here today and your involvement, and thank you for making Kingfisher Kingfisher.